Hello everyone, this is week 2 and we're going to go over under assignment number 2 on Cobra, the active reading packet. Remember, you can click here and then you can download this packet as a Word document to your computer. If you had taken CCS 98 with me or with another instructor, this information may be a review for you. If you haven't taken 98, that is okay. This might be new information for you, or it might be a review as well. So for active reading, as we go through this, I am going to highlight as we go through some of the important parts to learn. Now normally I would annotate this as we go through it in class, but since we're online, all I can really do is highlight it as we go. What I will do is take pictures of my copy and put them on Cobra so that you can see how I annotated it. Okay. So our focus in CCS 99 is on improving your reading skills for college level work. Okay. So we've got 4 reasons why reading well is so important. The first one here is reading today is a matter of economic survival. And I'm not just talking about with college here. Remaining competent on the job requires you to keep up with new information. So if you're going to go into business, into nursing, into welding, into anything, the job market is always improving upon itself, and you need to make sure that you keep up with everything. And if you don't, you're going to fall behind. You won't be competent in your job. You might lose your job. You might not get promotions like you want, things like that. So it's always important that we keep current with what we're working on. Reason number 2, reading is the way to acquire knowledge and gain knowledge. Okay, so here it's the if you do not use the skill, you will lose it kind of thing. And so we always need to make sure that we are looking at good, strong information that's true. Reading is central to college success, number 3. So in college, reading is the primary way to acquire information and learn new ideas. Okay, most classes will have textbooks, they'll have material that you will have to read. Try to make some sense out of it, figure out what you think about it and connect it to what you're learning in class. And so that's very big. And the thing is you're going to have a lot of reading to do in college, but you're going to have a short period of time to do it in, because we all have multiple classes we're taking, we work, we take care of our families. And so when you have those larger amounts of reading, you're not going to have a large amount of time to do it in. So trying to use your time wisely will help with active reading. And then finally, reading is a source of pleasure and self-enrichment. It's fun and can be enriching, and you can learn things about yourself. If you look at the protests and things like that with Black Lives Matter that's going on right now, if you take a look at the New York Times bestsellers list, they are all books about race. And that's great. These are books that need to be read. It's topics that people need to know about. And so during this time, people have turned to books to really help educate themselves, and I think that's great. And so right now, this week, as I'm making this video, they're doing a push, the publishers are doing a push for people to buy books by Black authors, not just about race, but about, good feeling type books and children's books and things like that. So we can learn, but we can also have fun. So these are 4 reasons of why reading well is important for us. And so think of reading as an active, multi-step process that you, the reader, construct meaning out of the words, sentences, and phrases. Okay, that is your job. And then you have to interact with what the author has written to make it meaningful. Okay, so if you're going to use something as a source in a paper or a project, you need to understand what that source is saying and whether you agree, disagree, and how that will prove your point. So we've got 8 stages here for active reading, things to do before, during, and after you read. So before reading, strategy number 1, we have the preview, pre-read section. So here you're just kind of looking, especially for a college textbook, you're just looking to get the big picture of what the section is about. You're going to take a look at headings, titles, captions, graphs, pictures, and you're going to read this information first. It will help you decide what key ideas to underline during your reading. But then if you have essays where they're just solid paragraphs and things like that, you might want to read the first sentence of each paragraph, kind of skim through, see what ideas they're going to be talking about. I do this a lot when I read a biography or autobiography. If you open up the middle, there's those glossy pages with pictures, and I always like to look at those first, okay? So it's taking a look at what's coming. And then strategy number 2. All right, we're going to predict, we're going to develop guide questions to set a purpose for a reading. So you're going to ask yourself, why am I even reading this, besides the fact that your instructor assigned it. And so this is going to give you purpose. This is going to give you purpose in your reading. And so when we formulate these questions, we're going to do that before we read, and then as we read, we're going to answer them. And let's say after you read the piece, you've got some questions that you still have not answered. Those are great questions to take to class discussions, especially if your instructor says everybody has to participate, you have to discuss, and that can be embarrassing at times, and you might not know what to say. If you've got questions about things, that's a great piece to take with you to help you with that. All right, and then strategy 3, we're going to activate our prior knowledge. What do we know already about the topic that we're going to read about, okay? And so this mental framework of prior knowledge on a topic is known as schema. And so when we read, we're basically enlarging that schema, okay? And the best way to learn new information is connecting it to previous information. And so our purpose there is that it helps us get interested in the topic if we can figure out what we previously know about it. It warms us up and gets us ready to concentrate, because concentration is important. And then it also helps us to remember when we connect it to our prior knowledge, okay? And so here they've got some questions you can ask yourself before reading. You know, what do I already know about this topic? What is my first emotional reaction to this topic? What in my past has contributed to that emotional reaction? How does this topic fit in with what I have already learned in the class, previous lectures, readings, and are there words in the title that I do not know and need to look up? So those are things that you can do to help you. All right, so activate your prior knowledge, ask questions, and then take a look and preview everything. So then during reading, we've got a couple of strategies. First is we're looking at the type of reading, okay? So is the author telling a story? That would be narration. Is the author simply explaining something to us? That's exposition. Or is the author making an argument? So taking a position on an issue and coming up with reasons for it. And do we agree with those or not? Okay, so figuring out what the author's saying in what way, their writing pattern, can help us as well understand what we're reading. And then strategy number 5 and number 6 here, these really kind of pertain to what you read last week in the article, How to Mark a Book. Okay, so here, this is why we annotate and what we do when we annotate and why it's important. Okay, so when you have new information coming in, especially when it's important for college or your career, you always want to read with a pen, pencil, or highlighter in hand. Okay, this will help increase our concentration. Okay, and that's very important. Okay, we got to stay connected and focused while we read. And it also creates a permanent record. Okay, so with what you annotate, the notes that you make in the margins of your page, those are like an outline for you. So when you have to go back and look at this again, you don't have to reread this section again. You just look at your outline notes first. Okay, but the other thing that you want to do when you highlight and mark things up is you want to be selective. Don't highlight the entire section. That's not going to work for you. You just want to pull out the most important parts of it, just like I have highlighted the most important parts here. And then when you annotate, use the no naked page rule, okay? Make sure that you read the section first and then you mark it up, okay? Because if you mark it up as you read, you may find that you're marking and highlighting everything. Again, we want to be selective. So read it first and pick out those important parts. And so here in these bulleted points, they give you some more tips on what kind of things that you can do to annotate, okay? By drawing lines, circles, things like that. That'll help you. But my biggest advice is find what works for you, okay? Obviously this semester I have specific things that you have to do with annotating with a worksheet. Obviously that's not perfect because that's not exactly what we do in a face-to-face classroom setting, but it'll be close enough for us right now. But find what works for you, because in most classes they don't require you to turn in your annotations or anything, but it's you creating a process where you learn what works for you and helping you make meaning of the text. And then finally, after reading, so strategy number 7 is write a summary. Strategy number 6 is writing a critical response. We will go over those in their own separate videos for the packet on writing a summary and the packet for critical response. But when you think about annotating and everything, again, final note to remember is that it's not going to be for everything, but it's going to be for the most important things that you have to read for your career and while you're in college as well. All right, so what I will do is take pictures of my pages of this packet with annotations, and I'll post those on Cobra, so go and take a look at those to see another example of annotations. All right, and now that you're done with this video, go on to the next video where we talk about how to write a summary.